Real parents, real stories. It's the Meet the Parents podcast.
Hello and welcome to episode 10 of the Meet the Parents podcast. Every week we bring you 30 minutes of real life from our team of mums and dads. So joining me tonight are Amie and, making his debut at last, John from Dad Blog UK. Good evening, both of you.
Hiya.
Hello, glad to be here.
So this week, the three of us are going to talk about our kids' relationship with technology, before I then do an interview about a child's view on all things gadgety with two very special young guests. But before we start, let's just take a moment to allow the latest member of the podcast team to introduce himself. So, John, why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself and your family?
So, I am John Adams. I am married to Jill, and we live in a topsy-turvy world. My wife works full-time, and I am a stay-at-home dad. We've got two wonderful daughters, Helen, who is 7, and Elizabeth, who is 3. I've been blogging about my experiences as a stay-at-home dad at dadbloguk.com since 2012. Being a dad is great. Being a stay-at-home dad is great. Has its demanding aspects. But yes, delighted to be here at long last.
And it's great to have you on board at last. Now, over on your blog, as you mentioned, you write about a combination of your family, various topical issues, and even such diverse topics as women's sanitary products. So tell us a little bit about all of those.
Yeah, I mean, if I give you sort of history to it, I started blogging, it really was at first sort of for me to rant, basically, when my kids were sort of very young, and I found myself dealing with the sort of latent sexism that does exist in parenting, because I'm afraid to say, even though we're in the 21st century, the world is set up and simply expects women to do the majority of the childcare. And so I started blogging to sort of highlight the issues and the battles that I faced as a stay-at-home father. And fatherhood and those battles to this day are at the core of what I do. And I will never, I mean, it's sort of one of the unique selling points of my blog. I will never veer away from doing that. But there was after blogging about 18 months, I was actually at the Brit Mums conference. And so the penny dropped with me. I realised that a lot of the mums, they are more than happy to blog about feminism and their thoughts on feminism one day, and the next day you'll see them blogging about Laura Ashley print dresses. And I kind of thought, I really could be having some fun with what I do. And so, yes, I've sort of did some of the lifestyle stuff. So I'm one of the few men above the age of 40 who actually writes about fashion and style, cooking, as well as days out with the kids and all the, photography and all the family stuff. But yes, it's funny you mentioned the sanitary products, Tim, because I was indeed contacted by a sanitary product specialist a while ago, and I, as a man, developed ways to review their product, and I did it, and it was one of the most popular blog posts I ever wrote. I think it possibly has something to do with the fact that in one of the photographs I filmed myself throwing a litre of chainsaw oil over a panty liner. And I got a lot of great feedback on that. But I can't help feeling I've rambled on enough. That's me in a nutshell.
Yeah, so for anyone that hasn't read John's post, I will attach a link to it in the show notes, and it is well worth a view, let me tell you. So anyway, that's John. So now on with the show. Now, our kids are growing up in a world where they're surrounded by technology and their expectations of what it can do for them are sky high. So when I was our kids' age, we had 3 channels on our TV, which tells you exactly how old I am. If you wanted to watch your favourite TV programme, you sat down at the appointed time and you watched it. If you wanted to change the channel or adjust the volume, you got up and you adjusted the dial on your set. Other than educational schools programming, there was no TV in the morning, for much of the afternoon, and indeed after about midnight. Now, today things are a little bit different. We have hundreds of TV channels available to us. We can watch TV anytime we want. We can record it. We can watch it on demand. We can stream it via services such as Netflix and Amazon. And we have more computing power in our smartphones than what was used to send men to the moon. So We're going to start by casting our minds back to our first experiences with technology. So, Amie, can you remember your earliest encounters with technology?
I've got two. I remember us getting our first computer, and it was the year we moved to the States, so it must have been 1994, and it was huge. I swear it was bigger than me, and it was Gateway, I think, and the other one was my Geo Safari. I don't actually remember this, but I've seen photos of it, and it was I used to call it my Tomputer, and it was one of these things where, you slide the card in, and then the lights flash up, and you answer questions based on kind of whatever part of the card is flashing up. It was very, very high tech in its day.
Oh, brilliant. Now, John, you and I go back a little bit further in terms of our ages and our first encounters with technology, but what are your earliest memories?
Now you're asking, because I spent my formative years, my really young days, in sort of an extended family setup with my grandmother, an unmarried aunt and uncle, and my mother in a house that didn't even have central heating. 3 channels, black and white TV. I can certainly remember the ZX Spectrum computer.
Oh yes.
I never owned one, but I did sort of watch friends of mine who did have them, who were complete computer geeks.
Do I ask what that is?
Brilliant. Amie, it's sort of the Cano computer of its day that ran on cassette tape. You know what a cassette tape is?
I do. I did manage to get the tail end of them in my childhood.
Now the Spectrum, that had a beautiful rubberized keyboard that was almost impossible to type on, and it had a massive 48 kilobytes of memory.
Wow.
Good grief.
Don't stress yourself there, computer.
It is frightening just how far it's come in such a short space of time.
Yeah, it is. And I guess going back to my early childhood memories, I guess I've got 2 quite vivid memories. So the first was spending rainy weekend afternoons with my dad, and I'd have probably been about 5 or 6 at the time, with him showing me how to splice those old, big reel-to-reel tapes that were the predecessors of cassette tapes. Now, that was a very different process to editing a podcast, I can tell you. You'd mark up edit points on the tape itself with a pencil, you'd cut it carefully with a knife, and then splice it back together with adhesive tape. So it was quite an involved and quite a physical and tactile process. The second one, and I remember this really clearly, was when we got our first TV with a remote control, and I was 7 at the time. And when I say remote control, it was basically a little black box about the size of a large computer mouse with a single button on top that you would click, and it would cycle through all 3 available channels. And that was it. But at the time, it was the coolest thing ever. So that was us. Now, what about our kids' first experiences with technology? Now, Amie, little Miss has only just turned 2, hasn't she? But
yeah.
What exposure has she had to modern technology so far? Does she take much of an interest in it?
Completely. She has a mixed experience, mainly because we're slightly Nazi-ish about her screen time, which we'll come on to, I'm sure, but we tried to keep her away from devices and stuff. She didn't really watch TV until after her first birthday. Not because we're like hippies or anything, just I worked in telecoms, we're both Apple fans and things, we're very, very digital in our house, and we have every acceptance that she will probably have a life in front of a computer screen. So we figured if we could try and teach her about appreciating non-screen time in her early formative years, hopefully she might manage to maintain that a little bit in an ever-increasing digital world. That being said, I am surgically attached to my iPhone. It literally never leaves me. So she's obviously always seen me with it. She sees her dad on the Xbox, and we're both on our laptops. Obviously, we do spend time with her when we're not on screens, but it's a part of life now. And so, yeah, she knows exactly what to do. She doesn't know her numbers well enough yet to unlock an iPhone, but we're kind of just waiting for that day to come. Yeah, she's incredibly digitally savvy, and she knows even once you've unlocked the iPad how to get to her little folder of apps, which I just think is amazing.
Yeah, it's a slippery slope once they've learned to unlock things, because with us, Isaac has always been a proper little geek, and I can't imagine who he got that from.
You must be so proud.
I am really. And he was 15 months old when literally in the same week he took his first steps. and he learned how to unlock my iPhone and call up the CBeebies app. And I'm still to this day not entirely sure which of the two achievements I'm more proud of. I remember the way he also used to go up to our TV screen and prod it in confusion because he expected it to respond to touch the same way that an iPad or an iPhone does.
Wow.
Does Little Miss do that as well?
She doesn't actually. She kind of understands, and she even can tell you that the pad, as she calls them, in the navy case is Daddy's. The red one is Mummy's. The red phone is also Mummy's.
She's obviously still well trained though, because she identifies things as either yours or your other half. Whereas with our boys, you know the scene in Finding Nemo with all the seagulls where they go mine. Yeah, that's it. We don't own devices. The boys own devices that they loan back to us. What about you, John? What have been your girls' first experiences with technology?
You know, I've got one really vivid memory, and it was when Helen, our oldest daughter, would have been about 3. I was downstairs in the house, and things just went suspiciously quiet. And I walked upstairs, and I found her. She'd been there, I don't know, 5-10 minutes. And she'd got my iPhone, and she'd overheard me talking to my wife about my passcode. She'd figured it out, there, and she'd got her favourite app, and she was just sat there quietly playing it.
I love how they go quiet when they know that they're not supposed to be doing something, and they think that means that you won't notice they're doing it.
Hey, Amy, just now you mentioned having quite strict screen time limits for Little Miss. So can you expand on that a bit?
It's not so much a limit, it's not like 5 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever. It's more just we try and keep things like TV is for when she's ill, or like we'll watch a movie as a family if it's a rainy Saturday morning or something, because no one wants to go in the garden in the pouring rain. But we just try and keep that to a limit, really. In terms of the iPad, it is only really meant to be for plane journeys, long car journeys. So it's not so much set time limits, it's more kind of the quantity overall.
And John, how about you with the girls? Because they're quite different ages. Do you have any particular rules or limits for them?
Well, we do, but as anyone that's read my blog will know, we've just had some major building work done to our house. And so screen time can get a bit elastic, depending on what the pressures are. I mean, to be honest with you, it's all about having a balance. Do you know, the one thing I have really noticed, okay, it's not so much what the kids do on the computer or the iPad, it's what they watch on TV. When I say TV, I mean sort of streaming media as well. If you say put on, let's say, one of the big satellite channels, mentioning no names, and the kids sit there and they watch half an hour of that with all the adverts, you can guarantee they will be going absolutely crazy at the end of it. And I swear to you, it's the commercials. If you've got streaming media and you can put on a reasonably conservative Disney film, you've got a different child at the end of it.
I'd agree with that. And it's interesting what you say about the commercial TV channels as well, because for years, all the boys used to watch was CBeebies, which obviously is advert-free, but now they watch a lot of stuff on Nick Jr. and I lose track of what all the TV channels are called. And sometimes you almost feel that the programmes are there to provide a bit of a break from the adverts rather than the other way around.
Yeah.
I think you're right. And it does, particularly at certain times of the year when present buying might be at the forefront of their minds, it can cause quite a lot of aggravation, can't it?
Yeah, when present buying, when you've got your kids saying, I want to buy that, I want to buy that, I want to buy that. You know, when it's a dog that vomits on the floor or whatever the big seller was last Christmas, when you just find yourself looking at it thinking, seriously? I'm never going to buy you that. What
the
is
advertising
this?
and marketing executive in me is just like thrilled by this, and the parent in me is cowering in a corner waiting for my time to come.
Yeah, no, I do the same. I look at things sometimes and go, that's a really clever advert. Don't show it to my children. Gadget Show Live is the ultimate gadget event for dads. This year's featured products include the universal IKEA translator, which makes any flat-pack furniture instructions understandable to anyone lacking a PhD in civil engineering.
The psychic receiver allows any man to read commands directly from their partner's mind, even if all they've done is to think them without actually telling you. And finally, the automated clothes picker-upper is statistically proven to reduce marital aggravation by at least 37%. Buy your ticket now!
Let's talk about the subject of firsts now. So when would you say is the right time to give kids, their first phone, their first tablet, their first computer?
I don't know, in truth, because we're not obviously at that stage yet. Little Miss definitely, I don't think I'll have one before she's 4, maybe? Definitely not before she's 3. I would have thought it would be kind of around 4 or 5, maybe. And it'll probably be my iPad mini that I've had for the last 5 years and is dying a death, so that I can upgrade. It'll be more of an excuse than anything.
And how about you, John? Have the demands started to come yet for things like tablets and mobiles and access to laptops and such like?
No, the kids are not getting their own. We've kind of got a family iPad that they can have access to when Mummy and Daddy think is correct. Interesting, my wife and I, we have a difference of opinion as to when the kids should have their first mobile phones. Despite what I've said about being a country boy in exile, my wife seems to think that it's going to be possible to keep the kids away from their own mobile phone till they're about 12 or 13.
Good luck with that.
Well, I said, but it might just be the fact that I'm the one that always does the school run, of course. So I actually see the kids, with their their iPhones that are considerably more expensive than my Android, and I just think, no, that ain't going to happen.
When I was growing up, it was kind of year 7 would be when you'd get your mobile, and I could think that's about age 11. Because obviously you're probably walking to school for the first time on your own, or it was just kind of a rite of passage, you'd gotten to senior school or whatever. It seems to be getting ever younger. There doesn't seem to be that threshold, and I don't know if that's because kids are kind of growing up faster, or if it's just that these pieces of technology are just it's just so much a part of our life now that why wouldn't a child have one?
I've kind of drawn this line in my mind where I would like to hold off on giving Isaac his first phone until exactly then when he starts year 7 secondary school, but in reality I imagine it may well be a year or 2 older, although at 8 years old he still hasn't yet asked for a phone of his own, mostly because he thinks that my phone is his. But we did give him his own tablet, which was just a Tesco huddle for his 6th birthday, which he loves, and it also had the added benefit of meaning that we got our own iPad back, at least until Cara appropriated it for herself.
Do you notice a difference, Tim, between the boys and Carla? Does she behave differently with technology than they did, either because she's obviously later, or is it because she's a girl, or?
I would say she's slightly less geeky than the boys were at a similar age. I mean, she's perfectly comfortable with technology. She can quite happily sit there with an iPad and play with various educational apps and so on, and she's already cracked YouTube as well. So, but yeah, I mean, I would say the boys have shown more of an interest in technology, particularly not just in terms of using it, but really kind of getting underneath how it works. And maybe that's a boy-girl thing, maybe it's a older kid, younger kid thing. I'm not sure, but there is definitely a difference between Cara and the boys.
Christmas, the guys at Cano very kindly gave us a review machine, but actually Helen loved the really basic coding.
Brilliant.
But whether boys or girls, I think actually if you're going to get kids into technology, it's to get them into coding and such like at a young age. It's something that I never had or never did.
Can I just jump in with a question, actually, seeing as you guys have older kids than me? On the topic of coding, do they teach coding at the primary schools? Because I kind of feel like that should be a part of the curriculum now.
There's the BBC Microbit programme, which is I think that's just being rolled out into year 7s, which is it's about a 3 centimetre square, essentially microcomputer on a chip with a tiny LED screen that can be programmed so you can make it do simple games and things like that. And that's very much about trying to get kids involved in the basics and fundamentals of coding, because we were joking about the ZX Spectrum earlier. I mean, when I grew up, we had machines like the Spectrum and the BBC Micro where most of us actually in school of that kind of age, we all learn to program in simple languages such as BASIC. And, these days a modern computer is much more of a closed system, but there are a lots of modular languages such as Tinker and Scratch, which allows kids to create their own programs and build their own games using drag and drop modular elements. And that's great. And our boys have just gotten into that the last couple of months. It's very intuitive. It's very natural to them. And they're not, you're not physically typing code, but you're
starting to learn how it all fits together. Yeah.
And I mean, one of the other things we've discovered is gaming. Now, I have to admit, I didn't think that much of Minecraft initially.
Boo.
I am now beginning to appreciate some of its more constructive elements. Our boys play together in a shared world where I can see them working and collaborating together on projects, planning everything out and solving problems as they go along. And I think that's brilliant. And I know, Amy, you're a bit of a Minecraft fan, aren't you?
Yes, I am. I love it. But it's also, there's engineering stuff in there. I mean, it's basic, but I have a 9-year-old sister-in-law and an 11-year-old brother-in-law. But they play Minecraft, and you can see them starting to figure out, okay, so I need to get the redstone, and then I need to get this resource as well, and then that starts to put a switch together, and then once I can put the switch together, I can start to make a railway. And, that's stuff that I call her Auntie Chatterbox, the 9-year-old sister-in-law. She probably wouldn't be interested in stuff like that otherwise, but suddenly, because it's in Minecraft, it's really cool.
Yeah, and kids kind of grasp this so easily, don't they? Which I guess kind of brings me on to my last question, which is, do we worry as parents that our kids are learning stuff at such a fast rate and that technology is progressing at such a fast rate that it's going to be difficult for us to keep up with them and that they'll soon overtake us?
It all depends on the individual. I mean, I'm now in a place and living in a world whereby I do keep up with trends. My wife, however, is not into such things. I especially think, with a background as a blogger and an interest in social media, I'll be watching what my kids want to do and like a hawk. Technology, it's going to be a real pain to keep up with. Possibly, Tim, this is where age counts in to our benefit. We are probably the first sort of post-war generation where we're used to stuff moving at a frightening rate.
Amy, any concerns from your perspective?
I don't really think about it. I mean, I kind of guess it's inevitable in my mind. I mean, you see, my partner's dad is kind of nearing 70, and he's literally, we go and we have to just sort out everything for them. Their Macs, the kids' iPads with the Sonos system, something every single time, basically. And we'll get calls. My partner will have said, oh, the new iPhone's coming out. You should probably, take a look at it, see if you want to upgrade. Next thing we know, he's upgraded, his dad, but he has no idea kind of how to transfer over anything. And my partner is basically talking him through swapping over everything onto the new iPhone and everything for him and over the phone. And I guess I kind of just think it's going to happen. And I mean, I'm incredibly tech savvy. I hate myself for saying this, but especially because I'm a girl kind of thing. There's a lot of girls my age who aren't interested in the same kind of level of tech as I am. But yeah, it's just going to happen. You can see it, the fact that little Miss just so intuitively uses tech. There's absolutely no way she won't have overtaken me before she's 10.
Yeah, and I think that's it. You just have to accept that the change is going to happen and you run along with it as fast as you can. I mean, I've basically reached the point where I'm resigned to the fact that it's only a matter of time before the kids work out that parental controls are what children use to keep their parents out rather than the other way around.
I think it's okay if they overtake us, though. I mean, that's kind of what's meant to happen.
Yeah, of course it is.
It's how the human race progresses, and, not to get philosophical or anything, but I think it's okay. It's just about my pride that might be a bit hurt.
So on that note, that's the Meet the Parents Guide to Kids and Technology. It may feel a little bit like there's a danger of a gulf developing between the generations. So, BB-8 versus BB King, if you will. But ultimately, technology isn't going away. And, we think that in moderation, technology can be our kids' friends rather than their enemies. So as long as none of them invent Skynet, that's fine. A couple of weeks ago, the boys and I spent a day immersing ourselves in the latest consumer technology at Gadget Show Live at the NEC in Birmingham. Here's the story of our day, as told at the time in conjunction with Isaac and Toby. Hi, it's Tim here. It's Thursday morning, 7 o'clock, and I'm here with the boys. I've taken the day off, and we're about to go on an exciting mystery day out. So, Isaac, are you excited?
Yes, very excited.
How about you, Toby?
Very excited.
So, I haven't told you where we're going yet, other than it's somewhere new and exciting. Do you have any idea where we might be going?
No, I don't have any idea, but I think it's going to be quite a big place and with quite a lot of entertainment.
Okay, so we'll report back later when we've arrived at our destination, and I'll then be able to reveal exactly where we are and what the boys' reaction to it is. We've now arrived at the NEC in Birmingham, where I've just told the boys that we are here to see day one of Gadget Show live. So, Isaac, how excited are you about it?
Very excited. We just passed John, Amie and Otis from the Gadget Show. They're about to enter.
How about you, Toby? Are you really excited?
Yes,
Is this what you thought it was going to be, or is it even more exciting?
even more exciting.
So what are you looking forward to seeing first?
The Tesla.
The Tesla, okay. And Isaac, how about you? What are you looking forward to seeing?
I'm looking forward to seeing the gaming zone because I think there's going to be a lot of Minecraft stuff because in the last episode of Gadget Show they tested Minecraft, PC and Full Edition.
And also there might be some drones.
There might be, yes, you like drones, don't you?
Yes.
So we're about halfway through our day so far. We've had lunch, we've had smoothies, we've had ice cream, and we're ready and raring to go for the afternoon. But while we're stopped here, Toby, what's been your favourite one or two things so far?
The PS4.
And what was the game that you were playing on that?
The football game and the car driving simulator game.
And what else have you liked so far?
The Peugeots.
Of course, it has to be a car. Anything else that you've tried that you like?
The cars we were building at Sam Labs.
Now these were remote-controlled, programmable cars, weren't they, that you could build yourself? And you did that with Isaac, didn't you? You liked that a lot, didn't you?
Yes.
What about you, Isaac? What have you liked so far?
I like the hoverboards and I got to ride one myself. I found it quite difficult because it looks easier than you think it is.
Okay. And what else have you liked?
Well, I've liked looking at the emojis at the very start of the day. And like Toby said, I like the Sam Labs. And I think I know what I'm going to say at the end of the day for my favourite thing.
Okay, so we're going to head off again now and start looking at some of the gadgets and some of the new technologies that we can find around our home. So hopefully we'll find something interesting there. So we'll speak to you later. And here we are at the end of the day. It is now 6:10 and we have milked every last minute out of our day at Gadget Show Live. So we're just sitting in the car waiting to set off, and I'm going to ask the boys in turn now what their favourite bit of the entire day was. So Isaac, what about you?
My favourite bit of the day was driving the young children's small mini go-kart cars with pedals and proper steering wheel and track.
So these were little electric vehicles, weren't they, that any child between 5 and 10 could drive, and you did it, and Toby did it as well, didn't he? So Toby, what did you think about that?
It was exciting.
Okay, so Toby, have you had a thought about what your favourite bit of the entire day was?
Yes. Playing on the PS4.
And we've also come away with a special surprise for Mummy, haven't we? So Toby, can you just tell us a little bit about that?
I made it for Mummy and it's a new case for her phone.
And what's the picture that's on the back of the case?
The Eiffel Tower.
Excellent. So, have we seen some really good gadgets today?
Yes, definitely.
And what was your favourite gadget, Isaac?
My favourite gadget? That's a good question. I need to think about that.
Okay, so while you're thinking, Toby, what was your favourite gadget of the day?
The drones.
Which ones? The ones with the wheels that were like cars, or the flying ones?
Flying ones.
And are you hoping to get a drone now for your next Christmas or birthday present?
Yes.
So Isaac, let's come back to you now. You've had a chance to think. What's been your favourite gadget of the day?
The golf ball, which you could control with a tablet. At the end of the day, we went to a big track, and at the end of the track, there was a miniature golf course. So we used like a remote control golf ball, and we controlled it by using an iPad with a special app to control it. So we used the app to control the ball and get it into the holes on the golf pitch. There were 5 holes, and I think we did quite good, although Tobias's iPad did run out of battery as soon as he started.
Now, this was called Sphero Golf, wasn't it? So that was cool. Last question for both of you. Would you like to come back to Gadget Show Live next year?
Definitely.
Very definitely.
Well, I think we can chalk that day down as a big success, and maybe we will come back next year. So I guess we'd better hit the road now. So it's time to end this interview and this little chat with Isaac and Toby. Thank you very much, boys. It's been a very enjoyable day. Why don't you say goodbye to the audience?
Bye!
Bye.
So, before we go, any other business? What have you guys been up to this week?
We are officially out of quarantine. Yay!
The chicken pox is gone.
Yes, I'm so happy. We do have a couple of scars on her forehead, which we're quite gutted by, but we've been told to put bio oil on them, so that's what we're doing. Other than that, back at work. There's really not that much to report. That's kind of me this week.
John, the last few weeks, it's been all systems go, isn't it? You mentioned the renovations that were being done in your home, and then this week you've been digging out your passport, haven't you?
I have indeed. Look skywards and wave to me, because I will be on a jet plane heading to Australia. Ask me on my return if you're jealous, because I'm only going for a few days. It's indirectly, but nonetheless it is blog related. I guess the other thing is that the day this goes out, it could be something intriguing on there.
You tease, John. Well, that's something for us to...
So much mystery.
Yeah, an international man of mystery, no less.
Well, I'm a former journalist, so it's not what you know. It's what you know, but don't reveal.
and my week's a bit manic. So we're recording this in the second week of the Easter school holidays. So we've just had 4 days of boy free time, which has been great because it's meant that Cara's had a lot more attention from us. That's it for this episode of the Meet the Parents podcast. We'll be back again next week, but in the meantime, here's where you can find the three of us online.
I am www.findingourfeet.co.uk, and you can find me on Twitter at findingourfeet.
I am at dadbloguk.com, on Twitter and Instagram at dadbloguk.
And I'm slouching towards Thatcham.com, and you can find me on Twitter at ThatchamDad. So you can download this podcast on iTunes and on Android devices, on our website, and via a variety of podcasting apps. Do please give us a follow on Twitter at Parents Podcast, and Facebook at facebook.com/Meet the Parents Podcast. And if you're an iTunes user, we would really, really appreciate a rating and review. So thanks very much for listening, and do please join us again next week. Good night.
Night. Bye, guys.
Bye, and thanks for listening.